Well, I've got to say right from the get-go, this was quite an amazing chapter of Bleach. But a quick question for you guys. How do you guys like your Quincy? Diced up or poisoned? Hey everybody and welcome, it's your boy Shimigami X, aka your Captain X, here to give you another awesome Bleach chapter review. This Bleach chapter is 552, entitled The Fundamental Virulence. I can never pronounce that properly, I can never say that properly, but anyways, nonetheless, let's get into this review straight away. I honestly thought this was a pretty cool chapter of Bleach for many reasons. Some things I did predict, and some things I naturally could never have predicted, or I should say the method in which they occurred I would never have predicted. Like for example, one of the predictions that I made already was that Toshiro wasn't going to die. We all knew that because he's one of the top fan favourites in Japan, fan service personally, but nonetheless, still okay. Didn't have a detrimental effect on the chapter, so moving on. What I did like about this chapter, because I'm not going to give you a rundown because technically I'm late with this chapter because the chapter came out on Tuesday, although it's Wednesday now. But I couldn't give you the chapter review yesterday simply because my uni timetable physically does not enable me to do that. Because you know, work comes before play, guys. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. But yo, anywho, let's get into the chapter. I thought it was awesome when I saw Changdu literally just drop Ron Giku. Like, she looked like she was dead. I don't think she's dead. I really, honestly don't think she's dead. You'll have a very dramatic impact on the story if she is dead and like the way she was just killed off screen like that. Like she just literally brought back dead. Because the way her eyes were like pale and you know you see the blood on her neck, it looked like Changdu finished her off and literally just dropped her as like, I don't know, because that's his style. Anyways, nonetheless, I thought this chapter was a good chapter for several reasons. One, we see how Kisuke Urahara, the method that he is using to enable the Shimigami and captains and stuff to get their bankais back, or in a sense, stop the Quincy's from using them. I don't think that the method behind getting them back is so straightforward, like I said before in my Google Hangout with the Elite Ace and Charles Anime World, because as we see from this chapter, like basically what the pill that Kisuke Urahara gave to everybody who has a Bankai in the entire Gote 13 does is basically temporarily holifies their soul, basically meaning that their Bankai is still connected to them although it was stolen by the Stern Raiders. Okay, that's one thing to note. Two is that doesn't mean that the Bankai has been given back, it just means that it's literally poisoning them. So what that does say to me is that this method is working as a deterrent, so that, hold on, I might just sneeze on the Quincy's myself. But yeah, so what this method is working as a deterrent, stopping the Quincy's from stealing the Bankai in the first place. Therefore, making it a more level playing field for the captains who already aren't injured in battle, or been in battle or confrontation with any of the Star Knights to begin with. Star Knights as Quincy's, they're the same thing. Alright, so that's what that says to me. So, as in terms of giving them back, I think what he means by giving them back is that he's hoping that there's a slim chance that basically, because now the Bankai is deemed as poison towards the Quincy's, that they'll literally just throw it back at them, otherwise they'll die, because the Quincy's have been confirmed in this chapter to have no antibodies to be able to defend against any kind of hollow, might as well call it DNA, Reiatsu, whatever you want to call it, any kind of hollow genetic material. They have no antibodies to defend against it, whereas Shinigami do, whereas they can holofy and Quincy's can't. That brings me on to another point. So now we have Ichigo. Ichigo has Quincy powers, as we've seen it within the young Juha Getsu embodiment of himself, the young Juha embodiment within his soul, and we also see like basically the hollow version of himself, which is basically a Vizard or an Arankar that is the embodiment of his Shimigami powers. Okay, so Ichigo has full bring, Quincy and Hollow all living in the same being, so basically they're all intertwined within his soul. So I'm surprised Ichigo doesn't combust himself, or does the Fullbring side of him, or the fact that he's human, kind of nullify that and kind of bring it to like a kind of happy medium. That I just don't know. So I'm kind of thinking, so why hasn't Ichigo kind of combusted himself and, you know, being part Quincy himself, his mother being Quincy? Y'all know where I'm going with this. Alright, so what else this does confirm is that it also makes perfect sense as to why the Quincy could not steal Ichigo's Bankai. At first, I thought it was just simply for the fact that he was part Quincy, because I remember that when Ichigo was inside Kurge's jail, the only reason he was able to break out of Kurge's jail apparently is because he pushed his reactor to the extreme, and that Kurge's jail is not designed to imprison Quincy's, and whereas we know Ichigo is part Quincy. So I also thought that tied in with the fact that, okay, that's why they can't steal his Bankai in particular, which is what made him special, which is what made him a valuable asset in the war, and yada yada yada. You guys get where I'm coming from. I'm going with this. Alright. But don't worry, I'm not done there yet. I'm not done here yet, guys. I'm going to talk about something that I didn't like in the chapter. What I didn't like in the chapter is literally how Kisuke Ohara just randomly popped up out of nowhere. Like, okay, fair enough, he had a phone call with Mayuri Kurasuchi, which is all pretty cool, well and dandy. But then the fact that he popped up out of nowhere, I was like, what? Like, you know, he's like, oh yeah, I just came through the Danga. Like, no. See, if I wrote Kisuke's entry, I would have had a lot more battles going on. I would have had a lot more of the Shinigami, like, you know, dying and whatnot, and, you know, on the brink of death or battle damaged. So to make things look more hopeless for them. Then I would have had Kisuke Urahara appear out of the Danga, but not right in Mayuri's, you know, place, but, you know, like in like a neutral place, so he'd actually have to travel to Mayuri. So it'd be more dramatic impact. So like he says something like, "Oh, don't worry, guys, nothing to fear about. I'm here and I've got a plan," and that would have been the end of a chapter. Then something else that I would have done, I would have changed in this chapter, is that the way how these holification pills, or temporary holification pills, were distributed to the different captains and everybody else in the Gote 13 who had Bankai, I did not like. I didn't like that whatsoever, because I was thinking like, hold on. Since when could the Soul Society, you know, literally transport material to anywhere within the Serete, even though the Serete has technically been taken over by the Vandenreich within a matter of seconds? I was thinking, wait, what? And the method of which the Shinigami absorb the, you know, holification pill, let's just call it that. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I've got no gripes with that whatsoever, because just making physical contact with it will temporarily holify you, for even if it's for an instant, which it does the damage to the Star Knights. So, okay, that's cool. That makes perfect sense. So that was my gripe about the chapter, how, you know, how it was all done so quickly, and it's like, basically, maybe when the episodes come out and it's animated, we'll go into more detail, kind of like with other things that go on in the series, like how Unohana's death, for example, and her Bankai, when that happened like several chapters ago. Maybe that things like that will be explained in more detail when the series finally becomes you know, good, when the anime finally continues. So, okay. Overall, I do think this is a pretty decent chapter of Bleach. It was nice to see Chengdu use Toshiro's Bankai. It was nice to see the Ice Wings again, because we haven't seen them for quite a long time. It's been several chapters since we last seen that. And quite honestly and personally, I didn't actually think Chengdu would resort to using that. But it is another thing that I called as well, is that, you know, by Basby not being the one that finishes off Toshiro, I called this in my Google Hangout with Charles Anime and in the as well, it just provides time for Toshiro to be saved. And what happened in this chapter? This chapter was a perfect example of Toshiro just being saved by the villain, you know, rambling on about their own ideals and whatnot, saying that, oh, you know, the ones who stole the Bankai should be the one that should finish off that particular captain, that particular Soul Reaper. Like, if Basby would have just got the job done, then Chengdu would never been poisoned, we never had blood splurting out of his back. So, hey. But what I also did like as well is that we get some more clarification as to why the Quincy have such a detest towards Hollows. See, because at first I thought it's like, oh, there must be some kind of like grudge against them similar to the Shimigami, but then we clearly see now that that is not the case. It's simply primordial fear, the fear to survive. That's why they exterminate them. It's like, what's a good analogy for this? Humans are the top of the food chain, so it's a bit, what can I think of? The only thing I think of is zombies. So if I was to say like zombies, for example, yeah, if zombies were around, us as humans would naturally kill them, not because we despise zombies, but simply because out of our instinct to survive. And it's the same thing that happens with these Quincy. It's just the instinct to survive that is making them destroy Hollows and like completely eradicate their soul. And now this is making me understand how this triangle of hatred comes about, because Hollows are just creatures that, you know, go around, they devour souls. They're essentially like the animals of the series. Then you have the Shinigami, who are basically like, you know, the overseers of everything, like the ones who deliver justice, the ones who keep things in balance and in check. Then you have the Quincy, who are another separate being entirely, who are destroying Hollows simply out of, you know, the primordial fear and need to survive. Nothing wrong with that initially, but then what that does do is that upsets the balance between the entire universe, in the Bleach universe anyway. So then now the Shinigami have to step in and say, like, listen, you can't keep destroying Hollows like this, because what you're doing is you're disturbing the balance and you're literally destroying the universe. because you're upsetting the balance. The quiete are not listening to this, obviously just out of primordial fear, and are now carry on continuing hollow. So now the Shinigami take action to basically, for the better sake of the universe, and go and slaughter them. So now you can see where the hatred between the Shinigami and the quiete develop, because like the quiete are like essentially destroying the universe, which the Shinigami don't want, but yet all the quiete are trying to do is survive. You know, make sure that their race survives, because they have no natural antibodies to defend against hollows if they attack them. So now you see where this triangle of hatred comes from, and then you can see that in Bleach that technically nobody is right. Because I've always thought this with the Soul Society, that you know, their methods are not exactly completely just and fair. Like, not everything they do is totally in the name of justice. Same thing with the quietes, and obviously hollows are deemed to be the most evil. But nonetheless, we see that now in Bleach that things are starting to make sense. Is that there is no... The whole idea and concept of good and bad in Bleach technically doesn't exist. It depends on what standpoint you're looking at it from. Because if you were a quiete, and basically you're just killing these things to survive, and the method at which you kill them completely eradicates them, because, you know, any infection by these things will completely kill out your race. You're not actually going to defend yourself. So you're doing what you need to do to defend yourself, but then you have another being that is oppressing you for defending yourself. But obviously they have their reasons for that, but you can't see their side of it simply because you're trying to survive. It makes perfect sense. So I thought this chapter did very well in delivering quite a few things. Confirmation about why Ichigo himself can't be, his Bankai can't be taken. The method in which Kisuke Urahara has developed to prevent the quietes from taking the Bankai. I don't think that that's the method in which they'll give them back. I think they'll give them back simply because if they don't give them back, they'll be poisoned and they'll die. If they even can give them back. That's why Kisuke Urahara said possibly. Because remember, he didn't say like, oh yeah, I found a method to give them back. He said he found a method to possibly get the Bankais back. And that's what I think he means by possibly. So nonetheless, guys, hope you guys have enjoyed my review. It's your boy Shin Megami X, aka your Captain X. I'm signing out. And as always, my people, take care, peace, have an awesome day. You're dismissed. Oh, and a quick side note before I go, something that I forgot. What do I think will happen next chapter? I just literally think that I don't want it to happen, but I think Chengdu will die, because obviously he doesn't understand what's going on. And then literally Bazby is obviously going to report this to Juha. Juha's going to obviously come up with a new strategy literally on the fly, and then they're going to stop stealing Bankai. So anyways guys, I'm signing out. As always, my people, take care and peace.